I have to move over here for a second. So say I want to find a particular resource that they might be looking for, like succession planning. So I might do except for it helps if I spell it right. So I can type that. Say we've gotten a grant for succession funding. Then I might want to know how many people are really interested in that topic. In a month, we've had 72 people looking at something related to succession planning. So you can look at any part of your URL or the content and get more information about it. So you really can dig as far deep as you want to within inside of that. Are there specific things that you guys would like to see further?
Paul, I have a question related to this.
Yeah.
Does Google still require that you embed its analytics code on each page you're tracking?
Yes, but there's a way to avoid that if you have a non-traditional site. So what I mean is, if you have HTML pages, right, a lot of HTML pages, you have to include it there. You can include it in the footer, because what that does, if your footer is shown on every single page, then you can include it there and it will track it separately. If you're developing something like WordPress or Drupal, then there's modules or add-ons that allow you to do the Google tracking code without having to manually put it on every single page like you used to do back in the old days.
So they've accounted for that on like CMS pages? Okay.
Yeah. So like we have a Drupal site, so in Drupal there's a module that maintains that. I just have to make sure that the code is correct. And that's also very important. If you're not sure which version of code you're using, then it's important to check that out, because when Google updates that code, they offer new features. Like, for example, the newest code that came out allows you to do some event tracking, which is really about kind of around campaigns, and it tracks downloads and PDFs and that type of thing, which wasn't done previously. So you're really missing out if you don't have that newest code installed on the site. So that's important to note. Okay, so we don't have Google Adwords, although as a nonprofit you're able to take advantage of that. If we did, then you would be able to see those as well with inside the site, and that's under your AdSense, and you'll see that it's not installed on this. But you would go through a process of setting that up, and I would figure that NCT4G probably has AdWords.
We don't typically do any paid search.
Okay.
If we do any online paid promotion, it's through social media.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. And you'll see you've got AdWords and you've got social here too. So if you look at, you can see the referring networks and stuff. You really can dig deep into all this. But it shows you your statistics for each of the sites. So even like Hootsuite or Pinterest or whatever, it'll show up for each one. So you can dig as deep as you want to. The main things are to look at those key metrics that we looked at earlier. So look at those page views, what they're looking at, look at the top content, try to make sense of what content's there. Are they staying there? Are they not staying there? And that's something I didn't do with the content piece here. Let me go back to that. So we talked about the bounce rates and stuff overall, and you can see that some pages have lower bounce rates than others, but like this particular one, that happens to be a job posting. So, okay, yeah, they got to it and they're like, oh, that job's not for me, they left. So I'm okay with that rate being higher. Whereas if it was on the home page or something like that and they just decided to bounce from there, then I might be more upset. But you can dig deeper and see those, you kind of see your entrances and your bounces, your exit percentages. So you can even see as a whole overall, people on this site are staying at least a minute, which means that they're looking at something. If not, most of the time you have about 10 seconds on any given page for them to say, I like it, I'm going to read it further, or I'm just going to go. So this would be much higher if we were more of a research-oriented organization. So what other specific questions do you guys have, or maybe I didn't show you that you want to dig into a little bit deeper? Any questions? Yeah.
I mean, Google Analytics is good for the non-profit and other people, but do you use for share this analytics in a way that with your members? Like in a way that you can increase the, like we have this amount of people this month and the next month, we have drop, but we can be increased, like this. Do you use it?
Yeah, you can compare it month to month. So if there's a particular, like we were doing a drive or something like that where we were looking at a campaign for maybe even conference registrations or something like that to see if things were, more people were visiting after a particular campaign that we sent out, then we could do that. You compare month to month. And so if you just do that here, where you can choose to I'll have to help me with my side over there.
It's previous period.
Okay, so same previous period. And so you can see there's some similar dips, no real spikes or anything, but that's comparing June to May. And you could do the same. I could compare this year to last year to see what that looks like even. So I can see if there's any type of similarities or if there are major discrepancies, then that might bother me too.
No, I do understand. My question is, do you share with the...
So people can compare site to site.
Like this kind of information, so this kind of, you are making good, or it's just for your own information? Do you keep it for yourself?
For example, for us, PBS makes their Google Analytics available to us as an affiliated station so that we can compare kind of if we want to see how we stack up to a similar website and a partner website, we can kind of see how we compare to their Google Analytics.
In general, I would say that,
No, go ahead.
in general, I would say, Google Analytics are really for you to look at your own site and gather information and changes. You might look out at, maybe you have a good friend or, someone, in your field that you feel comfortable sharing that data with, but it's not generally something you would be sharing with the public at large. But as Liz said, we about 2 years ago joined the PBS benchmarking group, and so for us, there's 20-something, 30 stations in there now, and it's stations all across the country. And the great news is that it's apples to apples because it's all Google Analytics. The apples to oranges part comes in it. Is it a dual license? Is it in a city? Is it, there's a little bit of discrepancy based on your market size as to which is going to work. But in general, like you can look at this, if you look at someone's site and you see, like our site, I think our average visitor time is around 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes. But if you look at another site and you see, man, this site is like 4 minutes, I will go to their site and look at their site and say, what's going on here, and try and figure it out.
That's what I was
and you have a contact there. You might call them and say, have you done anything recently? And they might say, hey, we just did a redesign last year and we switched to WordPress, and now people can find our content easier, within our site. But there's definitely, a lot to be gained from having access to other people and being able to sort of bounce what's working and what's not working off them. That's kind of what this group is.
Yeah, we don't make ours publicly available, but I mean, I'd be willing to share it with anybody that would be interested in looking at it. I don't think there's anything proprietary there. It's just kind of metrics, and they change so often. It just depends on what's happening. But I know that there is a way that you can choose the industry that you're in to kind of compare yourself to other industries within inside Google. I don't remember where that setting is offhand, but when I go back home, I'll look it up and send it out too. So you can choose like the nonprofit industry, so you're not comparing yourself to like automobiles or something, That way you're at least comparing somewhat apples to apples.
I like the idea because if you are all non-profit and working together and support each other, and it will be good to share because, maybe some of you is doing lower and you want to bring them to upper, so that you can pull to the,
Absolutely.